call this preliminary webinar to explain you a little bit more about the objectives, the project ambition, what is the Amigdala about. So if we can move to the next slide, I will quickly present the speakers of today. So as the inaugural speakers, we have from A.SPIRE, Professor Sebastian Engell, and also from CEFIC, we have Florie Gonsolin. And well, my name is Pablo Morales. I'm the communication manager of sustainable innovation, in charge of the communication and dissemination of the Amigdala project. Together with Deloitte, we are organizing this inaugural keynote. With me, there are several consortium members, such as Stefan Luxemburg from TNO, Alexia Abeo from Green Decision, Sabrina Müller from the KEMA, Joel Neef from Deloitte, and Guter Nix from Vito. They will introduce themselves since they are part of the webinar, and they will speak a little bit more about the project. So some preliminary, before explaining the agenda, some preliminary notes. This webinar is being recorded and it will be shared on our social media and also on our website in case that you missed this webinar or you want to rewatch it again. And also, please, we will try to do this session as much as interactive as possible. So feel free to enter any kind of question during the presentation. And at the end of the webinar, we will have the opportunity to go through your question. So as I said, first of all, there will be an introduction from A.SPIRE. So just 10 minutes to explain the process industry Green Deal challenges and how Amigdala, our project, will help to meet them. Then we will have the opportunity to listen Florie from CEFIC. She will do an overview about the sector view on the Green Deal challenges and Amigdala's access factors. And then we will go through with the Amigdala project partners. In general, they will explain the project objectives, the expert leads, and also we will have the opportunity to listen you all to know more about the community of practice that we are developing as part of the Amigdala project. Then our project coordinator will explain briefly what are the next steps. And as I said in the beginning, feel free to enter your questions since we will have the opportunity to establish a short discussion about your doubts, questions, or comments that you may have at the end of the webinar. So moving to the next slide, I will like to give the floor to Professor Sebastian Engell, Advisory and Program Group Chairman of A.SPIRE. So Sebastian, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you very much, Pablo, for the invitation and for the nice introduction. Yeah, I'm a professor at TU Dortmund, and I will explain what it means to be the Advisory and Programming Group Chair of A.SPIRE on the next 3 slides. If you look at my background, this is a photograph from a coal mine, a historic coal mine near Dortmund. So coal is phased out in Germany for reasons which are also in the background of this project. But if you come to the region and you want to see really nice architecture from the turn of the 20th century, you should go there. It's really a beauty in industrial architecture. Okay, so let me first say a very few words about Processes for Planet, which is the private-public partnership that funds this project. It's a co-programmed partnership, which means that there are calls for projects and the call themes are negotiated between the private. So it's a private-public partnership, and the private sector is represented by the association A.SPIRE, and the public side is DG RTD and DG GROW of the European Commission. And the call topics are negotiated between the 2 sides. There are various let's say bodies who do that. And it's a quite substantial investment. You see that it's 1.3 billion euros over 7 years. Next slide, please. Yeah, so as I said, A.SPIRE represents the private side of the PPP. It has a large membership, about 200, of research organizations, of industries, of SMEs. So it is really broad. And the coordination between the European Commission and A.SPIRE in the PPP is, for example, done by this partnership board. Can I have the next one? Okay, and that's a bit about the internal working. So A.SPIRE represents 10 sectors, and our mission is to be really cross-sectorial. Okay, so usually we do not issue calls which are only targeting one or two sectors. Of course, different calls may be in the interest of one sector more than another, but it always should be cross-sectorial. And a key part of our work is what we could call programming. So that's about what will the next calls be. We are currently negotiating the 2025 calls. And this is done by the so-called advisory and programming group, which consists of a large number, not a large number, of 6 plus 4 expert groups, working groups, and then the results of this working group are discussed in the APG and then discussed with the Commission. And I'm, since 1 year, the chair of this APG. Next one. Okay. Processes for Planet has 3 big missions. This is the climate ambition to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions according to the 2050 targets by the Commission, to progress towards circularity and competitive of the process industries. And let me stress that we see these 3 topics always in conjunction and as equally important. Especially, you may know that the competitive position of the European process industries at the moment is not very good, and we have a serious risk that some of the industry will vanish in Europe, and it's also our mission to work against that. Next one. Yeah, that gives an overview of the different strategies that the industries in the process industries are pursuing in decarbonization and circularity. So that's what is really currently going on the ground. Shift to energy input from renewables, fundamental changes of the production technologies through electrification and the use of hydrogen, improved energy and material efficiency. This is something the process industries have worked on through decades because it is also key for competitiveness. Carbon capture, utilization, and storage. You may know that there are now big projects funded by the Innovation Fund. Use of renewable feedstock to replace fossil inputs and also to reduce emissions, and generation of feedstock that's from end of life and production waste. And currently we're in a phase where huge investment projects are starting. You may have heard that, for example, for the steel sector, there are investment projects in the German steel industry for several billion of euros, with a substantial contribution also from public funding. Can I have the next slide? Yeah, and we have in the past 9 months discussed our research and innovation agenda, which has been fixed at the beginning of the partnership. And we, for the coming years, sharpened it a bit to these 7 topics, sorry, in the core of our proposed projects for the future: electrification of the process industries, alternative carriers of energy and their integration, accelerated improvement of energy and material efficiency, CO2 capture and utilization, production processes and products that are safe and sustainable by design towards zero pollution, circular economy, and digitalization and human-centric industry. Okay, and all these areas, priority themes, are targeted to these 3 ambitions that I had on 2 slides ago. Can I have the next one? Okay, why are these projects of modeling so important? I think it's fair to say that currently each enterprise has its own strategy how to achieve climate neutrality and circularity and to stay or become competitive and resilient. Resilience is also a key aspect, I think, for our future. And this is based on assumptions on the framework conditions. So for example, the availability and price of electric power from renewable, cost of CO2 certificates. It's based on technical feasibility and also on market predictions and customer behaviors. Next one. Now, the sectors of the process industry, as you all probably know, compete with each other for energy and materials from renewable sources, as well as they compete with other activities like heating and cooling of buildings, transportation, agriculture, for these resources. Okay, so you have to look at a big overall, yeah, it's okay to click, thank you. You have to look at a big overall picture and to understand the dependencies between the different sectors, the different industries, in order to base both investments into research, innovation, and into real full-size plants on realistic and compatible assumptions, before the background of what is technically feasible and what is efficient. And these, especially in the process industries, these decisions have very long-lasting impacts. So it takes 5 years or more typically from idea to operation. We have payback times of 10 years or more. So what we do now will influence the future over at least 15 years. Next one. And it's not only on energy, but also on material, recycling and efficiency. Next. Okay, and so it is crucial to see this full picture in order to invest both R&D and the money that goes into the building of real plants into the right technologies, topics. And your customers are waiting for the results. The companies and sectors, the recent research and innovation community around the process industry, for example, Processes for Planet, the policymakers, the public. So it's really a crucial activity that you are undertaking. Next. And time is running. Okay, 2030 is already at our doorstep. If you take the investment periods of the process industries, this is today. So results are needed fast. And we are facing a critical situation with the danger of deindustrialization of Europe, especially in regard of the energy-intensive industries. And if I may, let's say, give an advice or a strategic thought, I think at the moment, course outcomes fast are more important than very detailed outcomes in 4 years, okay? Because the industries, the research community needs something fast in order to do the right thing at the right point in time. Next. And please collaborate. Collaborate with the other project called Winner. Collaborate with A.SPIRE and P4P because we want to base our decisions, our planning on your outputs. And collaborate with the sector organizations as broadly as possible because there are many sectors of the process industries and there are also representations of other sectors of our economic and private activities. Okay, with that, I would like to close, to thank you for the invitation, to congratulate for winning the project, and A.SPIRE and Processes for Planet, we wish you a fast and smooth progress, and please update us on your achievement as soon as you have them, because we are really curious and we are really interested in what you're doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Sebastian, for such an inspiring presentation. We will keep you tuned for sure. Now it's time to give the floor to Florie. So Florie, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Pablo, and good morning to everyone. And thank you for the invitation to join this first kickoff discussion. This is very much valued on our side since we look at your work with great interest, and as CEFIC we are also doing a lot of work in the modeling space. So we very much welcome this ongoing projects for various reasons, as I will explain in a minute. So myself, I'm Director of Industrial Transformation at CEFIC. So it means that with our department, we work on the topic of industrial transformation in general. through the lens of the chemical industry transition pathway that was published in 2023. And I will structure most of my presentation around, let's say, the main features of the transition pathway. And we also carry out ourselves a number of projects that are mandated by the CEFIC board in order to support the transformation of the sector, including one important project that is called IC 2050, a model that helps us to simulate and look at different possible pathways to a climate neutral and circular chemical sector by 2050. We expect to publish our results from the model that was revised last year by the end of this year. And I hope this will also provide a useful contribution to this project. So yeah, you can now go to the first slide. So yeah, I will start with a general remark on the fact that the Green Deal will virtually impact all the aspects of the chemical sector's operation. This will not only impact how we produce and what is our environmental footprint along the value chain, let's say, of chemicals, but this will also impact what we produce in the future, because you know that the chemical sector is focused very much in terms of what is the impact of its product on the environment and on health. And this is an important aspect with the chemical sustainable strategy that was published a few years ago. That will also greatly, let's say, shape the future of our sector. And then, of course, the digital transition, because it's a green and digital transformation, will also play an important role, but there we see it more as an enabler to allow the transformation related to the Green Deal objectives. So why is it important to emphasize this? And this is also a reason why we very much welcome having a more integrated approach to modeling and being able to include in the modeling exercise the various aspects of the Green Deal, is that there will be several, let's say, interrelations between those objectives, and we also believe there will be some trade-offs that will need to happen between these various environmental goals. So therefore, we believe such integrated modeling will really support decision making for the industry and also for the regulators, because we are basically shooting on a moving target. If we don't know exactly how the chemical industry portfolio will look like, how new innovative products will develop in the future. For example, a chemical company would not invest, let's say, in replacing a boiler. Let's take a very concrete example to reduce its carbon footprint in order to produce a product that we know might be phased out or restricted in the coming years and decades. So this is why having this overall and holistic view at the future of the sector is very important for decision making in the sector, and while having some sense of direction for the sector is so crucial, and why we have so much advocated in favor of having a transition pathway for the chemical sector together with the European Commission. From the investment aspect, it's also very important to take this consideration and this wider societal challenges in mind, because that will very much influence the investment perspective of the sector. I mean, if the chemical sector will still be able to gain revenues from its production, if through product innovation we do manage to innovate our way out, let's say, of these challenges. And having, let's say, products that still guarantees revenues for the sector will also secure that we can make the necessary investments in support of our transformation and to reduce our footprint on the environment. The climate neutrality and circularity objectives we see as highly interrelated, because we believe climate policy will increasingly become about scope 3. I mean, at least we see this clearly as a trend from the investors' side and from the point of view of science-based target setting. So the two objectives are very much interrelated. Next slide. Yeah. So based on this, let's say, initial observations, and once we had a clear overview and perspective of the entire challenge that awaits the chemical sector, we have followed the usual transition pathway process, so which means that we have gone through each of, let's say, what the Commission calls building blocks of the transformation, to be able to look at these objectives through different lenses, and to understand whether the, let's say, enabling framework is already in place today. So what is the progress that has already been achieved and that we should build on to support our pathway to the Green Deal objectives, but also what we see as the key and critical hurdles for the sector to achieve its objectives. And on that basis, we have developed, listed a series of actions. It's almost 200 actions that are split between the EU, the Commission, the member states, and the industry, and that need to happen in order to create this enabling framework. So we have looked at dimension. I will just quote a few ones. Sustainable competitiveness. There we have looked very much at the aspect of resilience, or how we ensure some strategic autonomy around the raw materials that will be needed for the transformation. Investment and funding. We looked at the role of sustainable finance, taxonomy, and so on, and how we manage to de-risk investments in the sector through de-risking tools, and the role of public funding in that regard. Research and innovation, looking at the different stages of innovation and how we avoid the valley of death between those steps. Maybe an energy and feedstock and infrastructure. This is one I will very much insist upon. They are absolutely crucial in support of our climate and circularity transition. One aspect that is becoming increasingly in the focus is the aspect of feedstock. How we secure access of the sector to alternative sources of carbon, namely biomass, recycled waste, and captured CO2. I would really like to insist on the fact that for us, the name of the game is not decarbonization. It's how we manage carbon in the sector, because we will remain a carbon-based industry, at least for organic chemistry. So it's just how we substitute progressively the fossil sources of carbon with alternatives, and also manage to make sure that the carbon stays in the loop. Last but not least, we also have skills and social dimension. I don't know, this is an aspect that you can integrate in the modeling and the decision making. But this is also a very important aspect, because if the industry changes so dramatically, that will also impact the skills, for example, that are needed in the sector. Last slide. Yeah, this one is just to show, a picture of through the regulatory lens, because regulation is also one building block of all the legislation that will impact more or less directly the chemical sector. to really, it shows, I think, the need for consistency between these pieces of regulation goes without saying, but also the trade-off aspect that I was mentioning at the beginning. So the Green Deal objectives do not always, so sometimes they mutually enforce each other, but sometimes, we know there will be limitations. I can give one example related to the use of biomass, which we know is needed for the climate transition, but that also has, for example, implications on the biodiversity aspect. So I think it will be very useful if more integrated approach to modeling help us understanding what is the interrelation between these objectives and how we manage them in the most efficient manner based on societal, let's say, expectations. With this, I finish, and thank you again for the opportunity to share our perspective.
So much, Florie, for your contribution. I think it's time now to talk a little bit more specifically about the Amigdala project. So I would like to give the floor to Stefan Luxemburg from TNO. Stefan, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Pablo, and good morning to all of you. And a great thanks again to Florie and Sebastian for their valuable contributions. It's great to hear of the practical relevance of our work. So now I have the pleasure to kick off the second part of this webinar, in which we as the Amigdala Consortium will introduce the project. Like Pablo said, my name is Stefan Luxemburg, and I'm a researcher focusing on energy system modeling at TNO, which is an independent organization for applied scientific and technological research based in the Netherlands. In the Amigdala project, TNO is the project coordinator, and in addition, we lead multiple work packages, and we are heavily involved in the development of the Amigdala modeling framework. Next slide, please. Amigdala stands for Alliance for Modeling Industries Towards the Green Deal's Objective and Circularity. The Amigdala project has been granted under the Horizon Europe Framework Program as part of the Processes for Planet Partnership initiative. And it has started this January and will run for the period of the next 4 years, with a total funding of close to 7 million euros. The objective of the Amigdala project is to provide decision makers on policy and investments with pathways of deployment of transformative solutions to make the industrial production in Europe climate neutral, competitive, and circular. These pathways will result from innovative integrated modeling. And to ensure that our modeling tooling will generate real-world impact, we will employ decision analysis of the important stakeholders in this transition process, namely policymakers at different governance levels and industry investors. Next slide, please. So on this slide, I depicted the cycle we will go through in this project. If we start on the top left, to ensure that decision makers in both policy and industry can use the model outputs produced in Amigdala, we have begun with an analysis of their decision framework. In other words, we will look into the control options and performance indicators to steer and monitor the industrial transformation. And for this process, a large number of interviews with decision makers in government bodies and industries will be conducted. And this decision framework will provide input for the development of the model scenarios, and later on for the evaluation of the scenario projections. The scenarios will be represented in the modeling framework to perform the integrated modeling of demand, trade, energy, materials, emissions, and industrial production, and which will result in pathways of the European energy and industry sector to develop while meeting the climate, sustainability, and circularity goals. Then subsequent, we will perform in-depth analysis of these scenario projections, and this will provide us with valuable insights in the conditions where the transformative solutions and technologies will become economically competitive. Next slide, please. And the outcomes we foresee in this project is that we will develop an integrated modeling framework embedded in the decision framework, and we will develop scenarios in alignment with this decision framework to ensure the practical relevance. We will develop transparent pathways of change towards the Green Deal and processes for planet objectives, and these will be made available through the project's dashboard. Then from the resulting pathways, conditions for these for the transformative solutions to become investable and deployed by industry will be identified. Then important results and data will be made available through a dashboard, which will enhance knowledge in both the academia and governance and industry. Next slide, please. So I will finish this brief introduction of the Amygdala project with an overview of all the institutes involved in the project. They are listed on this slide. And with this broad consortium of partners, we span a broad range of expertises from which the project will benefit. And with this, we will move to the next item on the program, namely to realize the objectives of the Amygdala project. We built on the Amygdala project partners' expertises. And these expertises together will work together to complete the tasks in the work packages. Next slide, please. In the project, these the expertises we have identified in the project are integrated modeling, where a TNO is the expertise lead, decision-making framework, where Green Decision is the expertise lead, data, where the GEMA is the expertise lead, and scenarios, where Vito is the expertise leads. Activities under these expertises will continue over the full duration of the project, and this will guarantee an efficient and continuous development. In the next part of the webinar, the expertise leads will give an overview of the activities and developments anticipated within their expertise in the project. And first up is Alex Abeo from Green Decisions.
So good morning, everyone. I'm really sorry, but workers are working around me, so you can hear some noise, I guess. Anyway, I will speak louder. So I'm Alex Zabeo from Green Decision. I'm the Chief Technology Officer of Green Decision. We are an SME, a research-based SME located in Venice. We have expertise in environmental and human health risk assessment, in software and models development, in decision analysis and decision support, in environmental and social sciences, and sustainability assessment. So in the Amygdala project, we are related to the decision-making framework. So we have several key outputs in the project. The first one is the creation of the methodology and the mathematical framework beneath the decision analysis. Then the framework will be developed in different evolving prototypes, starting for a very simple one in Excel that then grows into a web application, which is then tested and go through a second stage in the final web application, and then it's applied to the case studies of Amygdala. So the decisional framework and the decision tool are things that are really important and very useful to you and to decision makers in general, as they help both in using very complex models and in evaluating the results and taking the decisions and rank alternatives. So what you will be able to do with this user-friendly tool would be to start by deciding which are your starting point, your base scenario, which are the different barriers that you have and the decision that you can make. And the tool will help you in understand which is the correct path to follow in order to reach the goals that you set up. And this will be easy to do because the system will be developed as a very user-friendly application. But behind the scenes, there are very complex models that they will be presented next that run in the background and which can really help you in understanding what will go on in the future. And with this, I finish and let the next speaker go on.
Yes, also good morning from my side. My name is Sabrina Müller. I'm a senior advisor for DECHIMA. DECHIMA is a non-profit professional society and expert network for chemical engineering and biotechnology in Germany. We are located in Frankfurt am Main. DECHIMA is also, among very many other activities, organizer of the ACHEMA, the world's leading trade show for the process industries. In my department, called Research Coordination, we are active in national and European research projects, of which Amigdala is one. To the consortium, we bring in expertise of two of our focus topics: industrial transition in the chemical industry and industrial water management. During the past years, we have accumulated a lot of knowledge about how current production processes can be replaced by alternative technologies and what impact this change will have. In industrial water management, our expertise lies in wastewater treatment, water recycling, and water-to-X technologies. Here we also carry out techno-economic assessments. Other topics and focus areas of DECHIMA are e-fuels, electrolyzers, hydrogen production, transportation and application, CCU, circular economy, and flexibility options of industry. In the Amigdala project, we are responsible for delivering a consistent data set for the modelers. We'll create a library with data for the considered industrial sectors like steel, glass, paper, and chemicals. We'll provide data for feedstock and energy demand and emissions. Will also be the connection between the data management and validation expertise with the modeling and dashboard expertise. The key outputs of our work will be the provision of historical data for the proof of concept, the representation of this data in a publicly available online dashboard. We'll also provide the data for the chemical industry, and our project partner BFI will be responsible for providing the data for the metal industry. And lastly, we are responsible for setting up a database for the modelers and the mentioned publicly available data explorer. Yeah, and with this, I'll hand over to the next expertise lead. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And TNO will lead the integrated modeling expertise lead. And in this expertise, this involves the development of the integrated modeling framework. This will, it's about combining several models from the project partners, which span different geographical scope, sectoral detail, and spatial and temporal resolution. And we will start with the design of the model architecture, in particular, the information exchange between the different models. Next, we will realize a proof of concept study in which we will, for the first time, demonstrate the modeling framework focusing on one industrial subsector, which most likely will be the chemical industry focusing on plastics. Subsequently, the modeling framework will be extended to cover details of additional industrial subsectors to progress to a full scope model framework. And we will perform analysis of carbon neutral scenarios, which will be developed in the project in collaboration with our stakeholders. In the scenario analysis, we will pay special attention to the key indicators of the industrial transformation, which will include also the 5 dimensions mentioned in the call: energy demand, emissions, use of material, feedstock and water, production, and fossil carbon replacement. From the TNO side, multiple researchers are involved in the projects, and in this way we bring in expertise on macroeconomic modeling, energy system modeling, life cycle and circularity analysis, material stock flow modeling, and industry process modeling. The key outputs we foresee from the integrated modeling expertise include the Amigdala modeling framework architecture, improvement of our models geared towards extensive representation of the multifaceted challenge of the industrial transformation. And we will report on the modeling framework and policy and industry recommendations following from the analysis of our modeling. Next slide, please. Yeah, next I will briefly discuss the innovative character of the Amigdala modeling framework. Yeah, in state-of-the-art in industry modeling is mostly confined to the separate domains of energy, materials, and economics. In addition, the modeling is in general limited by its temporal and spatial resolution. It's the ambition of the Amigdala consortium to take the modeling one step further. And since we recognize that the adoption of the Green Deal's action plan, with the adoption, policymakers need robust and transparent information on the impacts of policy options. And industry investors also need to be able to make informed design choices and take investment decisions. And therefore, we extend the modeling to integrate the domains of economy, energy, and material, and we add the capability of modeling the impact of recycling. And our modeling will cover the full geographical scope from the global to the local level. And very importantly, we will align societal and business perspective through our decision framework. So in the scheme, you can see we bring together 9 models, and yeah, so 6 of them will yeah, cooperate on a system level. And here, global, European, and member state level production, demand, trade, consumption of energy and materials, and deployment of processing options will be analyzed. So on the system level, the submodels will run under one consistent framework based on the same basic data and scenario assumptions. The system level modeling will provide the context for the higher temporal and spatial resolution modeling at the local level, which is illustrated in the bottom part of the scheme. And this typically involves the modeling of one industrial cluster. So this is just a brief introduction of the modeling scheme we will employ, and I hope this has sparked your interest. So if it does, then make sure that you will join our technical webinar in 2 weeks' time, and here we will discuss more specifics of the modeling approach. And with that, I would like to give the floor to our next expertise lead, Wouter.
Yes, hello. Good morning, everyone. My name is Wouter Nys. I'm leading the expertise area scenarios and pathways. I work for VITO, that is a research organization in Belgium. Within Amigdala, VITO will offer expertise in scenario development, systems analysis, and also modeling. Regarding the objectives of this scenarios expertise, we will derive consistent scenarios that are relevant for process industries. And yeah, what scenarios are relevant for will be determined by recent scientific insights, also by key drivers of the model, but also by the members of the community of practice of Amigdala that will be also introduced in this webinar. So Amigdala will contribute with theoretical projections or pathways, but will also contribute by defining the conditions to make it work and to put it in practice. Energy grids are an example of such framework conditions. Regarding the key outputs, the outputs will address key questions that many players have. I name a few. Will there be enough low carbon electricity in Europe? Will electricity be too pricey in some countries, or is it even too pricey within the EU? Previous speakers have mentioned the importance of feedstock and carbon availability. How much non-fossil carbon do we have, and how are these flows within the energy and industry systems? So, and scenarios can help to deal with those questions and uncertainties. Some developments are beyond the sphere of influence of industries or policymakers, and we call those background scenarios. So that's where we will start, a reflection of macro developments, socioeconomic developments, and then aside, you have elements that of influence, what we call foreground scenarios, and these are at the core of the Amygdala project, reflecting choices. Choices, control levers are terms we will often use within Amygdala, and they will help understand complexities like cross-sector interactions, competitiveness, cross-border flows as well. So Envito will, apart from that, improve the open sector coupled Euro-Calliope model that allows to look into systems with a high resolution. Such model can create near optimal solutions that are only slightly different in total system cost, but provide a wide set of possible futures. And finally, Vito will lead a task that will benchmark the Amygdala's own produced pathways with external views. So benchmarking allows us to integrate those external views across EU industries that will be produced in the next 2-3 years. But already sooner, as Stefan mentioned, we will also have conceptual results in the first half of the project on one specific sector, most probably the chemical plastics. So yeah, to conclude, I look very much forward to these challenges that the scenario development will try to address.
Thank you so much, Stefan, Alex, Sabrina, and Guter, for this quick overview on the scenarios and the expertise lead. Now it's time to give the floor to Joel Neef from Deloitte. So Joel, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Pablo. So short words about myself. I'm a senior manager in the energy, climate, and carbon team in Deloitte, where I mostly accompany companies specifically in heavy industry on their decarbonization pathways. Professor Engell has told you about the need to have a holistic view across sectors and understand the different tipping points, coordinated vision across companies. Florie has mentioned the multifaceted dimension of the problem and the different pieces that need to align on a policy level, on industry level. And we've shown you, or tried to tell you about how we will tackle this problem, the solutions, and the way we're going to be bridging them. However, as in any model, the results will only be useful if they correspond to the different needs of the stakeholders. As such, as part of this project, we're developing a community of practice, and this is part of our role here. And I want to tell you about this community of practice, as this is this official launch, and encourage you to join. So, what is the community of practice? The community of practice is a group of stakeholders that we will bring together so that we can understand what your individual and collective needs are. They will be composed of 4 different types of stakeholders: industry associations and more marginally some companies, policymakers at European, national, and maybe even regional level, academics who will feed into the understanding and the grouping of the models and as well as data, and maybe to a lesser extent, but also to a very welcome extent, non-governmental organizations. What we need is to bring together a significant quorum of people who have a stake in decarbonizing industry so that we can bring together common views. Common views, as Wouter was pointing out, on what are the key parameters that people need to play with: the cost of energy, the cost of carbon, the availability of hydrogen, for example, and how that allows or restricts choices for industry and for policymakers. Ultimately, we need the results from Amygdala and the dashboard to be a common space for discussion. And in order to do that, we need to make sure that we understand what the needs are. We need to understand what you need to see and how you need to see it. So we are putting together, and we encourage you, and I will do this again in the presentation, to join this community of practice so that we can have your views, consult you at key stages of the project, and ensure that this project meets everybody's needs and enables action towards decarbonization. Because as Professor Engell was pointing out, time is of the essence. Why join the community of practice? So I've mentioned that the community of practice will bring together leading industrial associations, European, national, regional policymakers, as well as some key companies and academics, as well as NGOs. But what is the value? Well, the value is to make sure that we have a common cross-industry policy vision of Green Deal impact and options. What are the different tipping points? What are the choices that are available and what are their impacts? It's also to shape an approach and the tool for the Amigdala results that will design tomorrow's enabling conditions and accelerate decisions towards climate neutrality and circularity. It'll be an opportunity, a forum to exchange between industry and policymakers so that policymakers can better understand what the knock-on effects of their decisions may be across different industries, and for industry to have a better and more detailed view of what the impacts of different policy options are. As I was mentioning, ultimately it's about ensuring that this project, that the Amigdala model and results and the way they are presented in the dashboard meet your and your stakeholders' needs. And for that, we need your voice. We need you to speak up, and we need to be able to exchange with you. And lastly, it's also about developing an innovative model, which brings together, as we've mentioned, integrated climate, energy, economic, and raw material dimensions on a cross-industry basis and brings it to the next level. So please, join our community of practice. Joining is simple. All you need to do is register on our website, and it's also a low-level commitment. We don't expect to bring you together every week, every month. No, we'll bring you together at key stages of the project. The first one being the results of the decision-making framework. So how should decisions be organized? What do you need to see in order to be able to make results as an industrial association, as a company, as a policymaker? What control parameters we need to play with? These are the results, and we will learn a little bit more about the next steps in a minute that we will be projecting first. Then we will have discussion on data and on models, etc. We expect to bring you together about 4 times in the space of 4 years, maybe some change there. So it's a low-level commitment, but one that can critically make sure this project meets its objectives, has a material impact, allows you to better understand what is at stake and what decisions you have at your hand, and also better discuss with policymakers and peers what the impact decisions may be. So please do join our community of practice. And now I'll pass back the hand to Stefan, who will tell you very quickly about what the next steps of the project are before we go to the Q&A.
Yes, thank you, Joe. Indeed, I'll try to be very briefly. So currently we're in the execution of work package 1, which is the design phase of the project, and the activities in this work package will set the foundation for the rest of the project. Very important in the next couple of months is the collection of the stakeholder input, and that we will use to build the decision framework, which, as has been pointed out in this session, is very important throughout the project to align the model analysis with the stakeholder needs. So in parallel, we will also start inventory of the model development needs and updates, and we will start on the design of the integrated modeling framework, look for where are the data needs, and also start developing the first baseline scenarios and see how we will work towards integration of the stakeholder inputs in the scenario definition. In the summer, work package 2 will start, which will focus on the proof of concept, and in subsequent work packages, the model framework will be further developed and used to perform the scenario projections. And with this, we hope to provide insightful perspectives and identify conditions for the uptake of carbon neutral and circular solutions to make the industrial production in Europe climate neutral and competitive. And with this, I would like to give the word back to Joe who will update you on an upcoming webinar.
So here, thank you very much, Stefan. We were talking about the big outlines of the Amigdala project and largely launching our COP. We will also be launching a further webinar on the 23rd of this month, which will take place from 10 to 11, where we'll go in a little more detail about what we intend to do and focus a little bit less on the community of practice. So if you want to find out a bit more, do register for the further webinar. If you have colleagues, partners, people that you know who may be interested in the project, also do feel free to pass this information on. And if and with this, if there are any questions, do let us know. We're here to answer them. And if not, we'll bring this to a close.
Thank you, Joel, to explain us a little bit about this community of practice. Just for your information, I just shared the link for the community of practice registration through the chat in case you want to be part of our community, as well as the second webinar registration. This webinar, the registration is already open, so feel free to register in case you are interested in this second webinar. I was checking the chat and there are no many questions. So the first one was if the presentation of this webinar is going to be available. The answer is yes. It will be uploaded in the Amigdala project website, and we will also announce through social media when it's available, but probably during this or probably beginning of next week. More question was regarding the community of practice registration. As I said, I've already shared the link through the chat. And if you, there are information about the community of practice, information about the upcoming webinars, and also the registration to be part of this community. But rather than that, I don't see any more questions. Oh, I have one last minute question. When will first result be available? So
maybe
no...
I'll take
yes.
this and I'll also add a question of my own or answer the question which has not come up. So it depends what you mean by first results, but in the way that we've organized the project, the first results are around the decision-making framework. So what inputs should people be able to play with? What outputs should they be able to see? What is the decision-making process and how will this affect the way we analyze the results and present them? So this is due, and the first milestone for the community of practice is expected to be with a workshop around late September, date to be confirmed, where we will present the results from this work. Thereafter, we'll be moving on the POC, which covers plastics, and progressively building up the data, clarifying what these scenarios will be towards final model results. So does that answer partly the question? If not, then I might turn to Stefan to clarify when the actual model results will be available. But that won't be, unless I'm much mistaken, for a little while, given that we're in the POC stage now.
Yeah, I can briefly clarify that. So the proof of concept we will start on this summer, and the first results are planned for mid 2025. Then we will report on the analysis of the proof of concept, focusing on one industrial sector.
When will you present any, let's say, overarching results? I mean, not just for one product class in one sector, but more for the industries in general?
Yeah, that I will have to look up when that's exactly planned. So, but I can come back to you. That's okay, no problem. Yeah.
And maybe to just bounce back on a comment that Professor Engell was making, we of course also have started exchanging with the other project, Transient, and we expect to be able to, while details and modalities need to be clarified, we also hope that there can be collaboration via the views from the COP that can feed into both projects' modalities to be clarified.
Thank you so much. So perfect timing. It's almost 12 o'clock. So as we said, we invite you to be part of our community and also to stay tuned to our social media channels. We are available on LinkedIn and also Twitter /X. So please feel free to follow us to stay tuned about all the upcoming progresses of the Amigdala project. I would like to thank all the speakers from the Amigdala consortium and also for, Professor Sebastian and Florie to be part of this inaugural keynote workshop. So, as I said, I hope you have enjoyed and stay tuned for the upcoming results and for more dissemination activities where we will tell you a little bit more about the progress of the Amigdala project. So, thank you so much. And I hope you have a good day and we keep in touch. So thank you, all of you.